All right, so welcome everybody. Uh, Hello to old friends and hello to new friends. There are also some people who I don't know, joining. So nice to see new people also joining this session. Um, so um, because energy reading and actually, Tantra means Tantric is largely a method of energy work. So a lot of it has to do with sensing energies. Tantric practice, anything with mantras, you know, tantric practice deals with the subtle bodies of ours. So it means that we need to tune in into our bodies to know what's going on. So this is a universal feature of all tantric practice. And so in Pemako, we use the 13 Bumis as a path map. So I've written a book about the 13 Bumis. The book is freely available on the website. The name of it is What's Next on Post-Awakening Practice. And it explains what these 13 Bumis, 13 stages of practice, stages of enlightenment are to Buddhahood. And at the moment I'm preparing a second edition of that book, so it will come at some point this spring. And this course, 2 hours this evening and three other 2 hour sessions in the next few months. The reason why I put these short courses into the calendar is because, often it is difficult for people to get started with this type of path mapping because it's intuitive. It's intuitive to a large degree, and so many people over the years have told me that it's a bit difficult to get started with it. So I'm giving this 4 sessions during the spring, early this year, to introduce this matter so that people can have, and there will be the recordings of these sessions for those who are learning it afterwards. How many of you have read What's Next? Okay. There's some of you don't have video turned on, so I didn't see you indicating, but it looked like most of you are familiar with this. But in case some aren't, I will briefly describe what the 13 Bumis are and what is the meaning of Bumis. So Bumi is a Sanskrit word that literally means ground. And when Bumis are discussed in traditional Buddhist teachings of the Great Vehicle, Mahayana, or Tantric Vehicle, Vajrayana, it refers to these stages in practice that are gone through from the unawakened state, from the dualistically ignorant state, all the way to Buddhahood. So there are these different stages, different grounds, different Bumis that is a path map. In Buddhism, there are many different kinds of path maps that describe the same journey from beginning to end in different ways. And there's also a lot of literature about Bumis in traditional Buddhist sources. Avatamsaka Sutra, for example, I think it's chapter 26. It's a huge book and it's a huge chapter, but that, for example, discusses Bumis, and there are many others. So there are many different types of path maps in Buddhism, and Bumi is just one of those. But the thing is that, as far as I know, and I've spoken about these things in my book, What's Next? The thing is that I've talked about this with few people who know the history and know the wide scope of teachings of Vajrayana and Mahayana Buddhism, are really specialists in the whole thing. And I've been told that no lineage, no tradition today uses Bumis as a path map. So, even if it's historically recorded that apparently at some point there was, Bumis were used actively as a path map, it doesn't exist today, except in our style of practice, in Pemako practice. And so in What's Next, in my book, I've described, given a basic layout, what Bumi openings are, what the Bumi perfections are, how the whole path map works. And as I said, intuition has a huge role, a really big role in this. And this is, I've recently written a few short bits about intuition, that use of intuition is not really part of Buddhist practice methods or Buddhist training syllabus. And that's kind of interesting. And I think that the reason for that is because, Buddhism has been around for quite a while, about 2,500 years. So, and it's mostly been, almost entirely been, led and developed and commented by men, by males. So I think that the simple reason why there is really no training for the development of intuition in Buddhism is because men don't work like that. Men are more like logic, reason, rational thought, engineering, mechanics types. And I think that's the simple reason why Bumis haven't made it to our time. It's apparent that because there are all that literature about Bumis, that somebody has at some point used it, and to a large degree, because there are really thick writings about it in traditional sources. But then the skill got lost, and nowadays nobody knows what to do with it. And so intuition has a big part in this picture. And this is what we are hoping to get like a basic understanding of this whole thing in these 4 sessions. What else? So maybe like a basic understanding of awakening is also good to mention here, that Buddhist Dharma, Buddha Dharma, is existent, is there to help us get from dualistic state to non-dualistic state, or from suffering to clarity of mind. And the suffering, or discontentment in English, it's a central topic, central issue in Buddhism, that people practice, they come to Buddha Dharma to help them in existential issues. We don't, in the beginning, in unawakened state, we don't know who we are, what is the purpose of life. We might be lost in life, can't really understand life because we see in dualistic way. And this means that we have this I or me, we have this belief that, belief that builds up throughout the years through different situations in our everyday life. We build up this sense of me-ness, self. And this is the reason, the only reason why we start seeing in two, start thinking in terms of me and you, us and them, seeing in dualistic fashion. And that makes us existentially lost, because this only happens inside our body mind. you know so we are, what is the English word, like it kind of forces us, this belief in separate self, in this I-ness, it forces us to be unhappy and not have understanding of what reality actually is. We rather have fantasies and mind-made interpretations of what is going on instead of seeing the reality as it is. So this process of liberation, becoming free in Buddha Dharma, it happens in stages. It's always in stages. So it's not only one big explosion that all duality all of a sudden is gone from the mind. We can have major breakthroughs. That's what the Bumi openings are about. They are major breakthroughs, big shifts that happen in our mind, in our energy body, related to these chakra centers in the head and above the head. But nobody has ever come from unawakened state to full Buddhahood in one single blow. So it just doesn't happen like that. So if we look at different path maps of Buddhism, they always have these actually two common factors: sudden type of awakening and gradual type of awakening. So both together. And this is actually, sudden type, those are Bumi openings. These sudden shifts that happen. All of a sudden we are born into, or we discover a more complete way to see ourselves and our surroundings in the reality that is there. So that's what Bumi openings are, these bigger shifts. And then Bumi perfections, gradual type, gradual awakenings. It's more like growing, like becoming integrated into that, becoming integrated after those Bumi openings or sudden awakenings. So yeah, it's simply we are talking about a path map that explains and can support us, can help us understand where we are in our practice, from beginning to end, from unawakened state when all Bumis are still closed to fully awakened state of Buddhahood, full liberation. And what is interesting about the 13 Bumis is that they are related to, in our subtle body, we have energy channels and energy centers, nadis and chakras in Sanskrit. So, it is logical that when something changes in our mind, and this affects our everyday life, when we have those shifts, whether through Pemako teachings or through Advaita teachings or Dzogchen teachings or whatever teachings, maybe Christian teachings, it always means that there is some change in the subtle body. There is a change in the mind. And these changes are what we are looking at with energy reading and Bumi analysis. That's as simple as it is. And so in my book, I've written about these 13 Bumis and their location in the body. So the first 6 are from the level of the eyes, in between the eyes, inside the head. The first 6 are on top of each other, inside the head. Kind of like large peas, P-E-A, peas on top of each other. Six of them between the bridge of the nose and the crown. They're on top of each other. In the book you can find images of how these centers are there. So these quite small centers, but actually each Bumi, it's like a larger plate that vibrates. It's like each Bumi is kind of a realm of its own. So it's not only a small center. We just use these small centers to measure, to look into the condition of a specific Bumi. But it's actually each Bumi is like a vibratory field. Okay, and tuning into the field aspect of the Bumi rather than a small center, it has more to do with finding out about Bumi perfections. But when we are looking at small centers inside the head and above the head, it has more to do with checking openings of Bumis. So all human beings have these same centers that I'm describing, the same Bumi centers. Everyone has those. So in my career of Bumi analysis, I've done maybe about few thousand Bumi analysis over a time span of many years. So I've done quite a few of those for all kinds of people, for all kinds of practitioners. And maybe I'll just briefly mention that the way how I got into the art of energy reading was originally through my Zen master, Japanese Zen master. I lived in Japan at one point and studied with a Zen master who was also a Zen art and Zen calligraphy master. His name was Terayama Sensei. He passed away in 2007. And he was a Dharma heir of a very long Buddhist tradition. And in this tradition, arts, both fine arts and martial arts, are practiced. And calligraphy, black ink painting, black ink calligraphy, and reading, perceiving, reading and sensing of the black ink calligraphy made by past masters is a really central matter in Zen calligraphy. So, that's how I got introduced to energy reading. And then I've also done a study of Reiki. But anyway, mostly through traditional Zen art, Japanese Zen art. So I started doing this in 2003, 2004, around there, and I've kept it until today. And at some point I learned about the Bumis from my own masters, Tantric masters, and then understood that was I was able to understand that I can use this energy reading skill, this sensing skill, in relation to this Bumi reading, this path map. Yeah, okay, I think that's enough as an introduction. I will now post a Dropbox folder into the chat window. You can see a link there. Actually, maybe you don't open that yet. It's a collection of different pictures that we're using later in this session to with the practice of tuning in. But let's actually start somewhere else. Let's start with small meditation practice. Please take a good upright posture. Letting the weight of the body rest on the sitting bones in the lower part of the buttocks, firmly against the sitting surface. Spine naturally upright, head resting on top of the spine. And completely letting the body relax. Relax your stomach area, solar plexus. Relax the chest, shoulders. Relax your face. Like letting tensions melt from the whole body. If you feel like taking few deep breaths, you can, to help with relaxation. So we are letting our bodies relax. We are letting tensions release, tensions that we don't need, that we also don't need to carry, that we don't need to keep. Letting physical tensions release, letting the subtle body open and expand. So do let both your body and mind, your emotional body, open up and flow freely, not keeping, not holding, not tensing in any way. A way to let the subtle body open, it might be helpful to view it in terms of letting thought energy flow freely. Or the energy of emotions, letting it flow freely. And right in the middle of this physical relaxation and letting the subtle body flow freely, there is this basic awareness. We are aware, we are not unconscious, we are not blacking out, but there is this conscious awareness, awake awareness, knowing awareness. Do recognize that, this basic knowing. And from this knowing, let the body and the subtle body relax even deeper. When our three-dimensional bodies, the physical body and the mind, the energy body, when it meets with this basic awareness, basic knowingness, it's kind of like, and it kind of feels like this relaxation deepens in a very, very subtle, thorough, complete manner. It's like receiving a very, very good massage. Relaxes very deeply. I would like to ask a blessing from the masters, gurus of Pemako Buddhism, Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsogyal, for this session. Dear Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, and Lady Yeshe Tsogyal, our Guru Mother, I'm turning to you for blessings, for everyone joining, for everyone studying this type of path mapping, Bumis, for the sake of all sentient beings. Namo Guru Rinpoche, Namo Yeshe Tsogyal. Feel the blessings, receive. Here we are already becoming intuitive. When we go into receptive mode, we start receiving rather than transmitting. Always when a blessing from a Mahasiddha, a realized Buddha, is asked, it comes in an instant. But mostly in different types of tantric styles, it is not emphasized that we also need to receive, that it's very useful. The point of asking blessings is to receive it and feel it, recognize it. what it means is that we feel the energy, we feel the blessing with our whole being. We take it in. We blend and unite with it. This is really something simple, very, very simple. It's not different from taking in the light and warmth of the summer sun. It's not different from receiving a good massage in the hands of a good massage therapist. And this is the essence of the so-called Tantric Guru Yoga, practiced in all major religions with different masters. So here we are feeling and receiving the blessings of Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsogyal, those two great Vajrayana masters. And when we receive the blessing, we simply keep feeling it. We don't need to do anything else except be aware of it in our body, in our mind, in our heart, in our head, in our subtle body, meaning the aura, our energy field around the physical body. So the practice of Tantric Guru Yoga, which is really the foundation of all Tantric practice in all styles of Tantra, Buddhist, Hindu, Christian. This is the foundational, most foundational practice, Guru Yoga. And even when we tune in and feel the presence of the Guru in our body-mind, it does not prevent us from thinking. The reason why I say this is that, we can feel and make observations. How does the presence of Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Ma feel like? Through the feeling, through the experience of it, we can describe how it is, how it feels like. How do you feel like at the moment? How does the presence of these two Mahasiddhas feel like? How would you describe your present experience to others or to yourself? For example, the blessing of the gurus makes my mind go very clear. Fogginess or foggy, stuffy energy, it disappears. So my mind becomes very clear, like a completely clear sky, without clouds, without such foggy, stuffy energy. It also feels very warm and very pleasant, very soft. In a sense, you could say that it feels like the skin of a baby, soft like that, no hardness at all. The presence of the gurus also feels loving, caring, and very, very kind. It also feels like it is entirely without fear, without nervousness. There's no trace of fear or nervousness or anxiety in the presence of Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsogyal. You can check in your own experience if that is true or not. So when we blend and unite through Guru Yoga with a fully realized master, Mahasiddha, we can get a glimpse how it feels like to be without nervousness, anxiety, fear, jealousy, greed, hate, hatred. We get a direct introduction how it feels like for a Mahasiddha, for somebody who has purified all the karmic Bhumis, number 1 to 10, who has become a Buddha, a Mahasiddha, who has attained Mahasiddha Bhumis. And this is the reason why Guru Yoga is practiced in Tantra. We get a direct transmission, direct introduction, as much as we want. All we need to do is to tune in, invite the Guru through prayer, through mantra, through visualization, and then just enjoy the ride, receive the transmission. And this is also, um, one of the major benefits of tantric practice, that we don't need to generate with our own energy through our own effort all the time. We can tune in in Guru Yoga, we can tune in with a Guru, and after tuning in, we can just enjoy it, receive without doing anything. Sort of like receive a massage that I used as an example. Or in the case of deity yoga, when practicing some tantric deities, such as Bodhisattva of Compassion, Avalokiteshvara, or many others, we also tune in through mudra, through mantra, through visualization, perhaps through a prayer, or all four combined, and then just enjoy the ride. Just receive and take it in. This is why Tantra is, very easy to practice. If we know what to do, it's a very enjoyable way of practicing. You can take a few deep breaths. Thank you, Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsogyal, for these wonderful blessings. Thank you, as always. And then let's continue to Bumi visitation. Like I mentioned, there are 13 in our path map. There are 13 Bumis, 13 related to 13 energy centers. First 6 inside the head, and then the next 7 above the head. So let's do a basic exercise and locate these centers. So we will visit all these central locations inside the head and above the head. So we will go up the ladder and then come down the ladder. I've described this exercise in my book, in What's Next. It's, I think, page 17 or 18. So we will go through this. So maybe something important to mention before going into the exercise. This is not really a concentration exercise, in a way that concentration exercise, what it means is that we have an object. Let's say I'm holding my finger in front of me now, and concentration exercise would be where I'm keenly focused on this one point, my fingertip, and if very keenly focused, so that everything else around my finger kind of disappears. I'm only interested and focused on the tip of my finger. So what we are doing next is not a concentration exercise. I used two words in the session that we just did: transmitting and receiving. So we are still, even though we place our focus very lightly, it's kind of just like becoming aware with as little effort as possible of these central locations, and then kind of being receptive at the same time. So it is not like being focused in a very keen manner. It's more like placing attention there very lightly, and then letting it reveal or come to us experientially, energetically. So this is an important point. If you are staring at it too keenly, you will get nowhere, because you won't be able to sense the energetic quality of each center. All right. So you can align your posture again. If you feel physical discomfort at any point, you can adjust or change your posture. Please do that. There's no point in trying to stay with the pain, physical discomfort. And then the first Bumi location is right behind the eyes, in the center of the head, straight backwards from the bridge of the nose. So put your attention in the middle of the head, on the level of the eyes. It's right there on top of the spine. Gently putting attention there and just feeling how it feels like in that location. This is the location where the so-called subject self, the grossest form of dualistic self, sits behind the eyes in this first Bumi location. In Pemako we have the so-called two-part formula, this practice to release that sense of selfing, this subject self. And when the first awakening happens, this Bumi, this energetic location opens up. That's first Bumi opening. And it happens there behind the eyes. So simply feel it for a few moments. Our attention is, we focus our attention in this small area behind the eyes, inside the head, but let it come to you as a full experience in your body, in your mind, in your whole energy. What is the meaning of this first Bumi, first ground? Feel it, sense it. Good. Then we continue to second Bumi, which is about 1.5 centimeters above the first one, on the level of the eyebrows, in the center of the head, on top of the spine. second Bumi location. Feeling into that location and letting the energetic experience, vibratory rate show up. And then continuing to third Bumi on the level of the center of the forehead. Center of the forehead, inside the head, in the center, on top of the spine. Again, another about centimeter, 1.5 centimeters above the previous one. Maybe you start getting a sense how the Bumis are different and how they are same. Maybe you see something, you're able to make some kind of observations as we go up the ladder and come back down. But it also needs to be said that, really one really understands these things after several years of continuous study and practice. But maybe you get some sense, even if you didn't work with Bumis before. That's always very important in practice, that there is constant progress, new discoveries, even if they are small ones, that's something. And then from third, we continue to fourth, another about centimeter, 1.5 centimeters above third one, little bit higher when looking at the forehead. So number four, fourth Bumi location. So with the fourth one, we are about 2-3 centimeters, about 1 inch below the crown. Then let's continue to fifth, which is between fourth and sixth, sixth being on the crown, so there just below the crown. Fifth Bumi center location. And then let's continue to sixth, sixth on top of the head in the crown, sixth Bumi location. So now we have gone through from the first Bumi center on the level of the eyes all the way to crown to sixth Bumi location. And like I said, the first Bumi is related to this subject self, sense of I-ness, me-ness, as a subject. And Bumis 2 through 6 are related to gross thoughts and gross emotions, and also correspondingly to selflessness of thoughts and emotions. These 6 Bumis, they also have a corresponding energy centers in all 4 limbs. Those of you who practice rainbow body yoga know about these centers in all 4 limbs. All right, let's continue to the following Bumis. And here the distance between the Bumi centers extends significantly. So the 7th Bumi, you can intuit into the space maybe about 12 or 15 centimeters above the crown. It is There, quite close to the crown, hanging in space above the head, maybe about 15 centimeters. So here, you have to be open, receptive, use your intuition to find that, to feel the center and the place of the chakra. Again, if we have too much force, focus, we won't be able to feel. We can't detect. Seventh Bhumi. Here you can already, with the seventh, you can probably feel that there is a significant difference between first through six and the seventh. It has a different energetic feel to it. Sort of like more open, more spacious, not confined, less confined. And as it is, outside the space of the physical body, uh, yeah, it feels less physical in a sense. You might perceive any and all of these centers as stars, as light, as disks, as kind of spiral energy, vortexes, something like this. Or you might just feel the kind of in a very naked and direct fashion, feel the energetic sense of it without seeing much. Both types are totally valid. So being able to see and perceive visually, it's not better. It's just a different way of perceiving. So seventh, about 15 centimeters above the crown. Then let's continue to eighth, which is roughly about 1.2, 1.3 meters above the crown. That's roughly about 4 feet, I think, above the crown. So you can let that point of focus, point of attention, rise from the seventh and go in a very gentle fashion. And you feel this kind of click sensation, like a matching sensation when you hit the eighth. Little more than 1 meter. Or maybe about meter and a half, roughly in that ballpark. And again, you let it, you feel it in your body, you feel it in your energy, in your heart, in your head. 8th Bumi location. So our attention is there above in the space above our head, connecting with these subtle centers, but we feel the energy in and with our bodies. Good, then let's continue from 8th to 9th. You can let your attention rise a little more than 1 meter higher from the 8th into it. Feel where the location is. You will feel like a key in a lock. It clicks, it matches. Very subtle matching, clicking sensation. About 2.5, about 3 meters above the crown. Ninth Bumi location. And then from 9th to 10th, again, let your attention ascend upwards and see if you can find that clicking feel again with the 10th Bumi about 3.5 meters above the crown. 3.5, 4 meters. So with Bumis 1 through 6, we are dealing with the energy system inside the physical body, inside the skin. With Bumis 7, 8, 9, 10, that actually hangs both above the body as well as below it. These Bumis are related to 4 different layers in the aura, in the energy field around the physical body, like you probably have seen in some pictures depicted in drawings and sketches. And then from 10th, hanging there quite high in space, continue to the next click, 11th Bumi area. It's not very far from 10th, perhaps just 1 meter, or maybe even less than a meter. 11th Bumi, which is also the first Mahasiddha Bumi. It's a vibratory field or a center that doesn't store karmic files, doesn't store selfing. So it has a different feel. So here we are at roughly 4, 4.5, 5 meters above the crown. So here when we are focusing on the first Mahasiddha Bhumi or 11th Bhumi, here we have gone beyond the karmic body. Bhumis 1 through 10 stores karmic files, habits, tendencies, selfing in different forms. Here we access the center, the kind of experience of ourselves as fully enlightened, as Buddhas. as Mahasiddhas. And then from 11th, let's continue to 12th, which is again a bit higher, not much higher, perhaps less than a meter from 11th. 12th Bumi. So 11th Bumi relates to emptiness experience, all phenomena empty, also called the body of phenomena, Dharmakaya, in traditional terminology. 12th and 13th relate to the enjoyment body, Sambhogakaya. So again, the sensation is subtly different. It is completely fine if you are completely new or still kind of a beginner working with these things. It is perfectly fine if most of this session is kind of foreign language to you that you don't understand. Like I said, it takes years to really understand and master these things. I'm still learning things myself after many years of study. Or if you have done this study for some time, you will start noticing differences. You start noticing different types of vibrations and frequencies, different flavors. So here the difference between 11th and 12th is that there is this very subtle sense of bliss, very subtle sense of joy that is completely pure and fresh and clear. 11th is already pure, fresh and clear. With 12th and 13th there is this really wonderful, rich, subtle joy. And then let's take it to the end stop, end of the line, 13th Bumi. Just another less than a meter higher from 12th. So now we are roughly at maybe about 6-7 meters above the crown. 13th Bumi. And again, feeling it, letting the sensation come into our body, into our heart, into our whole being, and then sensing it. And here, the difference between 12 and 13 is that this enjoyment aspect, sambhogakaya, sambhoga means balanced pleasure, balanced, well, yeah, even pleasure, pleasure that is even. So, this sense of joyfulness, it becomes kind of intensified, or blissfulness becomes intensified. But this blissfulness is not intoxicating or drunkening, still very clear and fresh. Okay, um, I realized that we are kind of late in schedule, so now that we went up the ladder, we don't have time to come down the ladder in the same way like taking a minute or two for each. So you can just like a child in a playground comes down a slide. You can let your attention come down, take a slide down, and come to the area of the body. Letting your attention descend from the space above the head, sliding down, sliding down, sliding down, coming to the head space, through neck to heart, spreads to both arms, spreads to the lower part of the torso, and spreads to legs, including toes and feet. Okay, then you can move your body, stretch a bit. Okay, so unfortunately we didn't have time to come down the ladder, but we went through all the 13 places. So this is a Bumi visitation exercise that I've also described in the book. Can be done by anybody, anywhere, and perhaps in the beginning it's good to give a maybe 1 or 2 minutes, or maybe I should say at least 2 minutes for each location to really get a sense of it. At least 2 minutes, maybe three, four, five. So it takes a while to go through the 13, go up and come down if you're doing it 3, 4, 5 minutes each. But I'm just saying this that, like I already mentioned a couple of times, that it takes time and study, yogic study, meditative study, not reading of books. It takes study to understand what these Bumis are and develop that sensitivity. In the beginning we might not, most people don't have sensitivity. It's sort of like, if we start discussing the differences, like I said, the different feels, different textures of different Bumis. For a beginner it's like foreign language, like ancient Hebrew or something. But through practice, through study, we can understand, we start to notice these differences, clear differences between each one of those, and we start making sense of the whole path map. We can understand through yogic meditative experience what our own Buddha nature is, what happens with awakening experiences, what happens with purification practices, tantric practices. This all starts making sense, and that's of course the whole point of this path map. Let's take a break for 5 minutes and continue in 5. So see you in a moment. So a few words about Bumi mapping. I realized that we only have 20 minutes left, so let's make use of that. When we have awakening experience and awakening experiences, these major shifts through one practice or the other, like I said, everybody has the same Bumi centers. So, when we understand what happens in these Bumi locations through our own experience, and we have the know-how, we have the skill of, we know how to tune in with others, feeling, sensing these same centers from other person, that's called Boomi Mapping. We can do the so-called Boomi Mapping, stage mapping, according to these 13 Boomis. And this means that, whether the person is present physically, like you're meeting a friend, we can do this, or we can use photos to tune in. And the way how photos are used is that, when you're watching somebody's picture, taken, might have been taken yesterday or today, might have been taken 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 50 years ago, it's sort of like a, kind of like a, I don't know how to describe it. My vocabulary is very limited in English, but it's kind of like a stamp in time stamp of that, whatever is happening in the body mind of that person, whatever is the, how much or how little non-dualistic awakening is there, we can access this person's mind, his or her inner experience, even if the photo is very old. So the way how photos are used or can be used in Bumi analysis is that you're not really looking at a photo. You're not, if it's a physical paper photo you're holding or watching a photo on your screen, you're not really looking at how the hair is, or if there's mustache, or what kind of eyeglasses are there, or if there are sideburns or something, or if there is makeup in the case of women. You're not looking at those, like you're not looking at the surface, but you're using that photo, and especially eyes, to access the energy body, that timestamp, through the picture. So here is why the intuition, being able to receive, being able to go into a receptive mode, that's how it practically happens. And just like we did in the session that we did going through the Bumi ladder, we don't really need to do much to make that happen. We only need to tune in. And because, let's say, for example, if we are watching a picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, for example, he's a very famous person, so you all know who he is. So if we are watching a picture of Dalai Lama, for example, he has the same Bumi centers as everybody here does. So what we only need to do is to tune in through the photo and let His Holiness the Dalai Lama tell where he is. Let his subtle body transmit to us what his inner experience or stage is. It's that simple. And it can be applied to anybody, obviously, because everyone has the same, exactly the same subtle body, same centers. So now, if we still have about 15 minutes, so let's do, there's that Dropbox folder. You can open that. Does everybody have the link? Yes, okay. So I collected 9 photos. We won't have time to go through all of them. And I tried to pick up photos that, it's a surprisingly emotional issue for spiritual practitioners and practitioners of certain lineages and Buddhists, when we start discussing about the stage or attainment of their beloved gurus, it gets emotional very fast. So I try to choose people who might have less how do you say, less possibility for that. So just a moment. So let's look at number 4, 5 and 6. Open the photo number 4, Dalai Lama in 1980s. And there you see His Holiness picture when he was much younger. You know, this was 35 years ago this picture has been taken. So just like we started with a short session of Guru Yoga with Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsogyal. We became receptive to their presence. Here, do the same thing with this old picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. You don't have to be concerned about certain Bumi centers at this point. Just feel him through the photo. Just be with him. Feel him. Let his energy tell you how he feels like. And again, just like in Guru Yoga session, I described in a very simple terms, verbally expressing my observations. You probably start noticing things through tuning through this photo. Again, we don't have to try. It's exactly like if we are having a cup of coffee with our best friend, good friend, beloved friend. You automatically receive that person. You feel that person, feel the energy of that person. So you only need to receive and feel. Very simple. Our own energy body picks up, tunes in with our friend, in this case, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. All right, now you can continue picture number 5. His Holiness the Dalai Lama about a decade later in 1990s. And just like when we went through the Bumi ladder, you might have noticed that there is difference between Bumis. Here you can see that decade later His Holiness feels different in the 90s than in the 80s. And again in this picture he's has a very jolly, smiling face. We are not looking at his skin, his facial expression, but feeling his energy in a complete, total manner. Again, you let him tell you, you let his mind, his heart, his energy tell you where he is. You can probably notice that there is difference between his feel because of this time that has passed and practices that he has done during the decade. And he's a very, very keen and devoted practitioner. You might notice that those qualities that were already there in the previous photo are enhanced. There's more of warmth, you know, love, compassion, also more expanded clarity than in the previous one. And then you can take a couple of deep breaths and kind of with each exhalation let kind of release the energetic charge from your body, kind of drop what you feel, make the tabula rasa, make the table empty again, and then photo number 6, His Holiness the Dalai Lama in 2020, last year. Tuning in into his presence, using the photo, letting his presence tell you. Your body, your own subtle mind picks up the signals automatically when you let it. Here again, you can probably notice that his presence feels significantly different than in the previous photo. So this was taken last year, 2020, at least 20 years after the photo from 1990s. So a lot of time and a lot of practice has taken place since the last photo. And that's why again you can feel the more clarity, more depth through this one. Okay, then you can close that photo. And let's chant together to finish the session. Let's chant relative bodhicitta prayer. May all beings be free 3 times. So inhale. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. Feel the energy of bodhicitta prayer. And let's also chant dedication of merit. May all beings receive my accumulated merit. I dedicate the merit to the refuge and to all sentient beings. And feel the energy of dedication. And then join hands, and as a gesture of sincerity and honesty, make a bow. There. I realized that 2 hours was, if we had a third hour, it would have been much better. But I think we really covered some basic things in this session, and we will continue in about a month from now. Let me look from my anti-electronic calendar when the next session is. It's in March 20. Wait a second. No, in February. In February 24th, Wednesday. And in the next session, we will actually have an empowerment. In Pemako practices, we work with these Bumi perfections, and there's a tantric way of tantric practice that can be used to measure or detect, how many Bumis have been perfected. These so-called 13 Pure Land jhanas. So I will give an empowerment for that. You can find 13 Pure Land jhanas information from the website. So what I will also probably do that I will add an extra hour to that February session and the next ones also, so we won't run out of time. Yeah, but we covered some basics in this session, and I hope that it got you going and perhaps gave you some more understanding of the 13 Bumis and this whole thing that is so essential, really basic to tantric practice. Like I mentioned that, often it is the case, unfortunately, that, a lot of mantras are chanted and a lot of visualizations are done and, different mudras are performed, but people don't really know why. And that's because, people are not pointed out that there is this whole energetic experience in those mantras that is supposed to be recognized and felt in our whole body. So, there is the external aspect of Tantra of performing all the techniques that are supposed to take us to internal aspect of Tantra, which is the energetic sensation, this energetic experience that we workshopped. And that in turn leads to the secret experience, which is the natural state itself. So external, internal, and secret. These three are spoken in Tantra, but unfortunately, not that many seem to understand, what is the purpose of doing all these practices and techniques. Yeah, so I hope that what we did in this session helps in making that clear. So thank you for everybody for joining. If you have some questions, perhaps we can continue it in Facebook. You can write to the wall in pemakobuddhism.com. If you prefer, you can send me email. And I guess, I'll see you in February then, in the next session. Also, there is this funny thing, something about money. There is this Facebook updates the way how Facebook works, even when it's not necessary. So in the Facebook event, it says that, I have written it in the information field that, about donations. So if you can't afford to make a donation for this session, it's totally fine. But if you can find the donation information there in the Facebook event. So again, thank you for this session and see you when I see you. Have a nice evening or day. It was nice having several new faces joining for this one. Okay, bye bye everyone.